Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. I am your host and beat reporter, and I have been your beat reporter covering the Jacksonville Jaguars every single day since August 2019, and we are continuing to move forward through yet another offseason together. All right, guys. Super Bowl's obviously, the haze in the barn. It was what it was as a game. It very much looked like the Seahawks were going to be on a different level than the Patriots entering the game. I mean, they were just completely dominant, especially down the stretch. Shows the difference between them and the Patriots. The Patriots won. I'm a firm believer that there's no such thing as winning ugly at any level of football. To me, a win's a win. It is the most important thing you got there for. Just because the Jaguars beat the completely hapless Raiders in overtime because Devon Hamilton knocked down a ball that would have been otherwise a surefire two-point conversion, doesn't make that win mean any less. Now, if you're talking about like long-term matchups and stuff, sure. But a win is a win. Still, we saw the difference in how these two teams went about their wins. I mean, Seattle went through an absolute gauntlet. Los Angeles, San Francisco twice. New England kind of eked by, ugly game in the snow against Sherrod Stidham. Ugly game that, thankfully for them, CJ Stroud imploded in. Ugly game against the Chargers. It wasn't a good postseason for the Patriots. Even though obviously they made the AFC, it was a better postseason for them than any other AFC team simply because they didn't lose until they met the Seahawks. But it was clear where this one was going to go. I think you could tell from the first drive how this game was going to go. And I'm talking the first drive when the Patriots had the ball. It shows you how quarterback-pilled the conversation truly is now, when there's been so much conversation about Sam Darnold, when, I'll be honest, there were probably 10 more important players at minimum for the Seahawks than Darnold. And I know I've never been the biggest Darnold guy. Perhaps this is just me being a hater. He made some really impressive plays evading Milton Williams, who had some really nice wins. But otherwise, I thought like Kenneth Walker stole the show. I thought, pretty much probably every player on their defense had bigger moments. It was just that kind of game. With that said, even though it was a very forgettable Super Bowl for everybody other than Seattle and the 12s. I think that there's an obvious lesson to take away from the Super Bowl. It's the same lesson there was last year. That, every single year we talk about the Super Bowl champion as, okay, this is how teams need to be built. This is the new model. It doesn't have to get reinvented every year. It's the same exact takeaway this year that it was last year. The difference is we now know this year, we didn't know this last year, but we now know the Jaguars at least have some authority on the subject and on the knowledge that they need to be better there. I think that when you look at the Seahawks win, the Seahawks team, the Seahawks Super Bowl, I said this game reminded me a lot of the Jaguars-Seahawks game in Week 6. When the Jags defense kept them in the game just long enough, then Seattle hit a couple explosives that kind of made the difference. And then Jacksonville's offensive line just got bludgeoned over the head with a log, more or less. They got their teeth bashed in by the Seahawks defensive front. The Seahawks sacked Trevor Lawrence more than they sacked Drake May. I believe it is the most he's ever been sacked in a game. He might have hit that mark again the very next week against Los Angeles. If he didn't, it was very close. I think ultimately, what this says is the same thing that we've been saying for years, that everybody's been saying for years. If you build a dominant team in the line of scrimmage, you will have the advantage more often than not. And I think more specifically, the interior of the defensive line. We saw what a difference it made for the Eagles a year ago. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Milton Williams last year for Philadelphia. I had an absolutely massive game. We also saw this year what the difference was for the Seahawks in their regard. on the interior. Byron Murphy, Leonard Williams. Their rookie from Notre Dame doesn't play the whole year because he's recovering from an injury. Makes a massive sack. Destroys Jared Wilson. I mean, the middle of the Patriots line just could not hold up. And obviously, both the Eagles last year and the Seahawks this year also got really good edge play. There's no question about that. Will Campbell had a terrible night. But I firmly believe the difference here is the interior defensive line play. Because when you're rushing with 4, there's things teams will do, whether it's quick game, whether it's chips, whatever it is, help from the inside, that against 4-man rushes, they'll just try to make sure the defensive ends don't beat them. If you look, if anybody wants to see a player just demand complete attention to the opposing team's pass protection plan, go and watch the Jaguars Week 5 Monday Night Football game again and watch Josh Hines-Allen every single play. That's what teams can do more or less when you're rushing 4. They can focus on you. This is who we're taking away. It's hard to do that against an interior guy. When an interior guy is dominating, it's a different ballgame. It's tougher to give them help. It's just the blend of athleticism, explosiveness, and power that you see from the league's best and most disruptive defensive tackles. It's hard for anybody to deal with. And it can completely stall out an opposing offense's running game. It can ruin their passing game. It can be the key to winning a Super Bowl and to being a Super Bowl defense. And the Jaguars had a really good defense last year. The Jaguars also, like the Seahawks and like the Eagles last year, have really good edge rushers in Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker. They need some depth there, obviously. Dennis Gardeck was solid as a number 3 edge guy, pass rusher down the stretch. You got something out of Danny Strickland and BJ Green as rotational guys. They still need to add there, but between Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker, the Jaguars have enough at edge to make a difference. The issue for the Jaguars, specifically against the Buffalo Bills, was that the edge guys don't get as much help from the interior. That's just a bona fide fact. And they haven't in Jacksonville for years. Eric Armstead played really well in the first half of the season, had a hand injury in the second half of the season. I believe he himself said it was a broken hand in a social media post toward the end of the season. You could see how it impacted him, but otherwise, beyond him, they didn't have anybody up the middle who could get after the quarterback. DeJuan Smoot wasn't really able to. Devon Hamilton is an elite nose tackle, but he's a nose tackle. He's not Dexter Lawrence to the degree where he's dominating against the pass as well. Devon Hamilton is one of the most important players in that defense, but he's not a pass rusher. That has been known for some time. I mean, otherwise, in terms of pass rushers from the inside, Matt Dickerson, Mason Smith obviously didn't play the last few games down the stretch. If you want to win with 4, which I believe the Jaguars want to do, I mean, Campanile learned directly from Vic Fangio. And Vic Fangio has a lot of, I'm not going to say the same principles and philosophies as Mike McDonald because they run 2 completely different defenses, of course, but each guy wants to rush for 4 more oftentimes than not. Let the secondary out-leverage you and outnumber you and outmaneuver you, out-scheme you. And dominate up front. And they do it with this wave after wave of guys. And how many times do we have to see it make a difference in the Super Bowl before the Jaguars kind of get to it? I mean, the last times the Jaguars have put serious investments into their pass rush depth, 2017 and 2022, they went to the playoffs and won playoff games. So I think it's clear what the lesson needs to be for the Jaguars. They need to build up the middle of that line, the overall depth of the defensive line. But I believe that the Jaguars know this. I believe that Camp knows this is how they need to win. And that what they had in 2025, while the defense played well and while they had a productive year, wasn't even necessarily good enough. There's another level the Jaguars can hit. They know it. I expect them to address this in the offseason. And I mean, the reports are they tried to trade for Quentin Williams last season. If that's the case, then they know. So I'll be fascinated to see if the Jaguars can follow this trend that they've been behind on for far too long. Thank you guys for listening to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. Be back next time.